Aloha. This video I just wanted to make real quick and talk about the very basic and shallow approach that the mainstream consciousness or the remnants of people leaving an empty societal consciousness. So people who don't really have a good example would be not indigenous people in the United States of America. So I'm just me putting myself in their shoes right now. I'm from another another world, basically, across the water in another country, and in even that's shaky. I don't even know what that I have no real anchors or roots there, especially if you're researching flat earth and the Mandela effect. This is an entire consciousness of people in this whole nation. So you not only have an entire nation of people, you have an entire nation of authority that has been developed over centuries to maintain control over not only the individual but masses of people. Not only the masses of people in the nation, like the system was doing when it was doing the Revolutionary War, and fighting the British and all that other shit. They were playing a fake war, a fake game on somebody else's land to distract people from the bigger war that was happening from these assholes coming here in the first place. They ended up on the land, and then they were like, oh, we shouldn't be here as as big as we are and enforcing all our bullshit on these individuals. So what we're going to do to distract those individuals from that storyline is to make a big fight with ourselves. Sound familiar? Same thing is happening today with the war on terrorism, the military industrial complex, the prison industrial complex, everything war-based that makes this system out to be the superhero, and the rest of the world who goes counter to the Western New World mentality is a threat, or even more so, a threat to the evolution of humanity. This is what the system is claiming to be, and this is why I say it's so important for us to really start breaking down the human story and let go of the Mandela effect, let go of flat earth, let go of mud floods, because that shit, first of all, you don't need to hold on to anything. So if people are holding on to something like this for years upon years upon years, knowing that the system now, it's 3 years now, going on 4 years now, knowing that the system is going to utilize this stuff in its own light, because it is the truth. It is way more truthful than the heliocentric deception. So to think that this system is not going to use that capability or that mechanism against the people for its own benefit is completely naive, like ridiculously naive. So that's one world, and you can see how the comparison I want to make in this video is how I've explained in all these other videos in great detail. I wanted to make this one shorter. The mainstream consciousness, or the people who are still heavily rooted, this is a good way to explain it. People who are still heavily anchored or rooted in the dependency program of the Western so-called civilization will only be able to approach stories like flat earth and the Mandela effect, for two examples. They will only be able to approach it from the consciousness that will not challenge their comfort zones of the system. So an example of that is like what they get back from the system because they're too comfortable with the system. So they will talk about the system up to a degree of not being able to affect themselves, or the privilege of themselves, or the comforts of themselves that comes from the side effects of this Western so-called civilization. So what happens is, in order to hide that, what YouTube does, or in order to hide that and amplify the shallow approach, what YouTube and social media and the algorithms of the New World consciousness is to promote information that makes you focus on the shallow approaches like flat earth models and not the human story. I mean, when you have those two comparisons, there's no other question. Which is the deeper story? What has happened to the people as a result of heliocentrism and all of the lies connected to that, NASA and so forth? Or is it more important to get out in front of, hundreds of thousands or tens of thousands of people and debate which one is better? Which one is more righter, the flat one or the globe one? This is some Disneyland kid ass bullshit. So this is the system. This is what the system wants to keep people at, because that Disneyland adolescent mentality is what the system utilizes to sell in what it tells people as the evolutionary intellect of this system through the education system. So they're not looking to give you all of the truth. They're looking to release portions of the truth so that they can later on, or it can later on, turn those portions of doggy treats of truth into a 5-star, downtown San Francisco, what are those Michelin rated restaurants? I don't even know if it's Michelin or whatever kind of high ass rated restaurants with good ass food. Just imagine them selling you like Payless shoes or something like that, like they did with that one test. Or just imagine them selling you like like diner food or something like that. And you've been eating dog food your whole life, so you're like, this dog food served in a diner is delicious. Can't wait to have my next evolutionary version of dog food. So right now, flat versus globe is dog food. They're getting ready to sell you McDonald's, potentially Denny's, or a diner or some shit like that. And since you've been eating dog food or nothing your entire life, no intellect, no education, you're gonna think this is the best thing ever. So the name of the game is to maintain that focus, that approach, and demonize other people who approach these stories from deeper perspectives. So approaching flat earth from the perspective of the human story goes directly to the source of what created the illusion. It doesn't get consumed by the movie imagery of the holograms of heliocentrism. It gets to the projector. It gets to the building that projector is projecting that illusion onto the screen. It gets to the movie theater of the projector of the illusion of heliocentrism and knocks it all out before it even gets a chance to stand up and speak for itself. The mainstream flat earthers are sitting around powerless, hopeless, and still anchored to that bullshit ass system, because I lost my train of thought, but I think it was somewhere around talking about the shallow approaches that people have because they're not linked to anything deeper than a human story. That's basically what it boils down to, or deeper than the mainstream story. Since we don't know the definitions or what humanity is, it's like it's the same thing. It's kind of like referring to yourself as human. That shit gets thrown around all the time. It's the same approach that people have when I share Bobby Hemmett information, John Henrik Clarke, or any kind of information that talks about the indigenous people or melanin or anything like that. The immediate response for people is they don't take that information as intellect. They don't even respect you as a living intellect. They think that your intellect shouldn't even exist. So when anybody talks about melanin, this is a consciousness that exists. Melanin in a sense of intelligence. So you can't, just because you feel butthurt by hearing the word melanin, doesn't mean that word is like a bad word. No, it means that you have work to do. Beyond that, it means that the defense against that word exists for a reason. for a purpose. What is that reason? What is that purpose? Well, what was the reason for colonialism? What was the reason for white supremacy? What was the reason for the whole New World mentality? What was the reason for genocide around the world? See, this stuff wants to be skipped over by the consciousness of people who are still rooted in the codependency program of that genocidal system. So the people are fighting the people who are fighting for the people. So that's what's happening. You have people fighting for people against a system that is telling you this whole shallow ass, we're all human, we're all one, it should just be about unity. They want you to do that fake ass, just Sesame Street ass, hold hands bullshit. They don't want you to get really intelligent, really knowledgeable, really connected with who and what you are. They don't want you to really unify and activate the deeper layers of who you are. Look at this video. Like with the Mandela effect. I'll switch gears from now back into the Mandela effect. They want you to look at your fucking aura. They don't give a fuck about you knowing what it is. They don't care about that. They want you to look at flat earth models. So they make these fucking apps. They'll make all these pictures and models and all this other bullshit about, I call it bullshit because from my perspective, it's fucking bullshit. We got so much other shit to do. I'm saying that not as a judgment on them, that just as a perspective from what it feels to me with what the opportunity that the individuals had. If YouTube gave you all these motherfucking subs and all this shit, and you know that that's happening, and you still sitting around talking the same ass shit you have for the last 3 years, add some more years on that. Motherfucker, you some suspect asses. And it's only gonna get even worse than that as the time goes on. Cause you some complicit ass motherfuckers that are sitting around here. That shit it's fucked up on so many levels. I'm not gonna go any further than that. Because that was enough to emphasize the overall approach that this bullshit is pawning off as the cool thing, the next thing to happen or should happen. So the new world, the new age is telling you the next cool thing or the next thing that you should happen. And these entire communities of people who think like this. The next thing that should happen is disclosure of aliens and technology and free energy from all that. So they're still asking the slave masters for something. Boom, done. You don't even need to fuck with them no more. The next thing is what? Flat Earth. Flat Earth is now what? Waiting for the mainstream media and hoping and praying and asking for the Western media to acknowledge Flat Earth and potentially reverse or undo what heliocentrism is. What is going to happen if they do that? They're going to take and replant their roots of authority and power over you and reactivate a new power and authority over you right under your fucking nose using your own videos and your own work that you put in for the last fucking 3 years. And what happens now? Like I've been saying in all these other videos, your work, your approach doesn't matter because you were too simple fucking minded to realize that they were ready. They used your ass. They're paying you with fake subscribers, you fucking idiots. This is what the algorithms are. And you guys think you're fucking superheroes because you got a lot of subscribers? If you know that they can remove subscribers and hide channels, you have to also know that they can publicize and amplify subscribers and channels for a particular purpose. Look around. It is not that difficult to see the shallow ass shit that they are promoting. Start with the trending page and work your way back. Work your way back through all the conspiracies, all the flat earths, the Mandela effects, the mud floods, and watch the approach, the spiritual approach, the empowered approach that gets dumbed down or swept under a rug in a corner somewhere, and look at the shallow. Look at your aura. It's yellow and pink and blue, and there's a white aura in the left hemisphere of your This means this. This is what these fucking Disneyland adolescent as so-called and awakened and enlightened as people are promoting. The same way in the new age, like I said, the only thing they promoting is, what is that called? Aliens. That's it. Ancient aliens. It was a History Channel promoting ancient aliens. Same thing. So to remove your whole human history, remove your empowered potential, remove your understanding, and overstanding of this entire system, and focusing all your energy on distraction, focusing all your work on the system that they want you to focus on. And that's what it wants to do. Take all of your spiritual and psychological consciousness, intellect, and potential, and what's that word? Convert it or translate it into a physical consciousness perspective. That's a better interpretation of what it is. You have the potential to go into the psychological and spiritual interpretations of this reality, but you can't go there until you go there on your own. YouTube ain't gonna be able to do that for you. This system and even the new age ain't gonna be able to do that to you. They might trigger you a little space to be aware of a door that you can open and walk through, but you got to do that work yourself. You can't do anything. But the way it's sold to you is telling you that that's the end all be all. This is the way you do it. And that's what the system wants to do, because that's what maintains its power. It says, this is how you do things. There's no other way to do it. We're the only ones capable of doing it. So we're the ones in charge, in control. And you have to follow and make sure that we do it. And if you don't do it, you're against humanity. You're against evolution. You're against whatever this system, progress. That's the main, innovation. Those are their two words. You're against progress and innovation because you don't think you're a fucking monkey. That's their mentality. And you can approach that from flat earth. And people are scared of approaching this shit. They'll mention it, but they won't go hard on it. Look at how many flat earth channels out there know about the evolution deception and how it's connected directly to heliocentrism. And ask yourself, are there enough human, monkey evolution debunking videos out there? Fuck no. You know why? Because it's too close to home. They don't want to go there. So they focus on the globe. They focus on the debates. They focus on curvature and math and all that other shit. But once you start getting close to that human story and start breaking down evolution and all those other deceptions, you starting to talk about the people. And they don't want to get that close. Because once you get that close, that's when you're not able to say unity and humanity anymore. Why? Because now you got work to do. Now you have something more tangible to grab onto and connect to who and what you are. But is that system going to do that? Are those people? Is that system that exists inside the people going to allow the people to do that? Hell no. It's like a parasite. If it gets seen for what it is, it'll get removed. They don't want to do that. It doesn't want to do that. So YouTube is using, just like social media is using algorithms, YouTube is using algorithms to promote certain shallow versions of very deeply important situations to speak about. So the flat Earth is obviously very important to speak about in reference to the physical consciousness. This is what I'm talking about, and this is what it boils down to, and I ended on this. Flat Earth is one of the main things, along with human evolution, that whole bullshit, monkey evolution bullshit. Those two go hand in hand. The Big Bang, all those three go hand in hand. That's one big chunk of physical reality, belief systems, and so-called truths that are dedicated to disrupting the entire evolution of consciousness through this experience, and really kind of setting this virus in the individuals that promotes self-destruction over time. On the physical reality, that's how you are controlled. That's how the authority is put on you. You think that they are gods over you because you think that their authority, justice and education and all that other stuff is brought by God. You think God gave them their authority. No, these assholes told you that they have authority. It's just some fucking regular ass geeky punk ass motherfuckers with guns and all this other bullshit that they've been doing across the world. It's just a bunch of assholes with paperwork locking you down on the physical reality. So you have the physical reality, consciousness locked down. With the flat earth and human and that soul space. This is just one example. There's many more examples in that. But to stay focused, that's what I wanted to talk about here. On the psychological consciousness, because the soul, the mind, and the body, the middle one, the intellect, the psyche, this is locked down with your next step up conversators or whatever, talking about reality breaking and consciousness and even the new age sort of aura. This is your spirit, this is your soul, we're star seeds and all this other stuff. You know where that world is. Anybody who wants to, get trapped in something for a learning experience is going to fall into one of those or any of the other multitudes of categories. For this video, I want to focus on how the internet, or YouTube in particular, is using a particular approach to have the same effect on people. This is the Mandela effect and so-called simulation theory and all this other shit. The Mandela effect, just like flat earth, is another phenomenon that is not just living and dying. It's lived for a few years now, and it's continued to grow within the people who are new to it and the people who stay in it. Point being, just like flat earth, because this is the same thing, I want to go deeply into it. Point being is that with the Mandela effect, it's the same thing as flat earth. They want you to focus on looking at your auras and looking at the simulation breakdowns and looking at, these things here and there that used to be like this and used to be like that, Doritos bag or whatever kind of bags, candies and all this other shit. It's still physical. So they're taking that psychological consciousness or that psychological potential or that this whole realm of reality potentially and channeling it into a psychological or a physical consciousness, and not only a physical consciousness, but a physical consciousness that's just based upon bullshit, nothingness. Look at your colors of your aura and all this. Who gives a fuck about seeing your aura and what the aura looks like? What the fuck is the aura? What the fuck is this experience? What is this earth? Oh, no, that doesn't matter. What matters is that it's not a globe. Really, motherfucker? Get the hell out of here. That's what matters? After 3 years? And we sit around and just watch this shit? How many other people out there, please, can at least get one more YouTube channel out there that expresses the same fucking passion against this shallow approach? It's the most irritating shit I've ever seen. This is the whole fucking internet. It's ridiculous. I only see a few people in the comment section every now and again agreeing with where I'm coming from in reference to this. But this is fucking ridiculous. We're in 2019 now. Just my little ass fucking found this shit in 2015. Then we're going on 4 fucking years now. And they're still playing the same YouTube videos on repeat. How many fucking curvatures and debates and all kinds of videos can you make? In 4 years, your ass ain't grown with realizing that the earth ain't a fucking globe? And that's as far as you've grown. As far as you've grown is what? Getting better at making debate videos? Getting better at making curvature math videos? Getting better at talking about fucking whatever it is that, this bullshit is. Nothing's changing. That's my whole point. And that's exactly what this system wants to happen. It doesn't want you to change. It wants you to be distracted by the most shallow perspectives available about the deepest stories presented. So that at the right time, when they have the right amount of people who are numerically based upon their numbers, they're playing the status quo. Whenever it gets to the right point to make the next move, that's when it'll make its move and co-opt all your shit and kill it. That's what I'm saying. You have to jump ahead of that move before it. But people are too linear. They don't see it that way. They think that they're fighting they think that they're like He-Man versus Skeletor or some shit. They're playing checkers. This is fucking checkers. Nothing less. So that's pretty much what I wanted to share with this. People were talking about the mainstream media approach to all this and what the next kind of... It's motherfuckers guessing about reality now. That's why it's so irritating. It's people guessing, oh yeah, and then they think because they could guess about their reality like their ancestors did, we think this is the India. This is the new world. The new version of Columbus's intellect today is, we think this is a simulation theory, and this is all a computer that has been created by a teenage gamer who just happens to be more evolved than us, who created this Sims world. That's what it is, yeah. And the Mandela effect is a proof of that. These simple-minded ass Columbus consciousness fucking minds who are not interested in getting to the real depths of what our ancestors have already gone into. That is a threat to their possible maintaining of their reign over you energetically. Get out of the race shit, that's part of it, but energetically... See race from an energetic perspective. An entire empire is crashing right now. You don't think the people who benefit and benefited from that empire aren't going to at least subconsciously protect that empire? You're fucking naive as hell if that is your truth. If you think they won't at least subconsciously try to stop you from taking back what they stole, then that's the most naive shit ever. And now what's happening is, since that is the discussion, because that is the discussion, there is no other discussion before that happens when you start actually talking to the Aboriginal people. But see, they don't want to talk to them. You don't see flat earthers in the black conscious community. You don't see flat earthers, and I'm talking about like the Mark and Patricias. You don't see them reaching out to the black conscious community. You don't see them reaching out to any of these other communities. You know why? Because they're a fucking cartoon commercial ass Disneyland version of truth. If they were about real truth, their truth would be universal with other truths. But see, when you have personal attachments to truth, you can't go into other worlds and talk to other things and other people about other things. You can only stay in your own comfortable little cubbyhole world, because that's where things don't change. Things will not change there. So things ain't gonna change in the Mandela effect. They ain't gonna change in flat earth because they being promoted. The only way that this can evolve into something new is if the mainstream media takes it and runs with it. Flat earth, the Mandela effect, and whatever they else are gonna do with it. Because the way this stuff exists in our world, the colors of the auras and the shape of the actual earth really don't matter to us as an organic people. We already knew this shit. We knew about auras. This shit's new to you. We knew about all this shit. And since it's new to them, they want to act like they discovered it the same way Columbus created his whole consciousness. So now the Mandela effect is the new way of talking about how they discovered the non-physical reality. The flat earth is a new way of saying how they discovered the bad guys of a bad guy empire. So they can, just put a new suit on and say that they're not the bad guys. They're the same guys. Same system, same consciousness. The same way the United States of America says it's fighting war on terrorism. says that it's the spreaders of freedom across the world. It's the same mentality. It's only going to go so far because in the long run, you're never going to be able to empower yourself because you've only empowered yourself in the linear consciousness that they provided for you to empower yourself with. You can't go any further than what they have allowed you to. No different than the Bandersnatch Black Mirror episode. This is the same shit. This is an extension off the last video, the Bandersnatch Netflix. Choose murder for all these people, or this person, choose this for this, choose suicide for this. This is what's happening right now. People are being manipulated on every different level, the soul, the mind, and the body. So physically, this is what I'm saying. This is how they're going to it's going to revamp. And this is another thing. This is a video that I shared on a community post on YouTube. For people who don't understand, or for people who are also getting butthurt about me, talking about race in any capacity, when I should not at all even have to explain myself, when race was used in the legal system to kill my people. So fuck all you sensitive ass, punk ass motherfuckers out there who get pissy when I talk about this shit. This shit wasn't like thousands of years ago. This was like day before yesterday, really. And not even that. They're still lynching motherfuckers out here. So fuck you. I have a right to be saying every last thing that I'm saying, and then some. There's nothing. There's nothing that can stop me from saying, period. That's bullshit. If you are going at me for talking about that, then you have to look at yourself and see what your problem is. What gives you any right, what gives you any authority to tell me that I can't ask questions about my own people on my own land? Why? Because you say we're all human and we should unify? How fucking simple is that? That's that new age bullshit that they're trying to sell to people. So, anyway, back to it. The soul, the mind, and the body. The body with all this, shallow ass YouTube social media bullshit, like I just said, giving you this, you're a robot. You're a mechanical robot. Transhumanism is also part of the physical reality, distraction, and mind control. So they have to amplify technology, amplify space, amplify secret aliens, amplify their authority, amplify like the anti-war mentality, the anti-destruction mentality. So this is where all these movements are coming in. Me Too movement, Black Lives Matter, all this other stuff. These are to make you, just like Trump is to make you think like things are fucked up. That's what they're doing in the mainstream media. Well, all these movements are to make you think that things are getting better and that the people are coming together. And then that's what they're going to do with all this information to fight the people, the fake people versus, that's what these are, the fake people movements versus the fake villain assholes. And then once they're done playing their movie for you, because you're used to watching movies, then you're not going to ask any questions about anything because you're going to be happy with the concessions that they gave you. The concessions to maintain your enslavement. So the mind has to be more manipulated, deeply manipulated, in order for the body to be fully controlled. So you have the Mandela effect and all these other stuff around transhumanism, the Big Bang Theory, heliocentrism, simulation theory, all this other stuff, the non-physical sort of think about your reality stuff, all that stuff that's placed out there in front of you. CERN with all their demon portal opening shits. All that shit is out there to maintain their version of what you should be paying attention to. So every Mandela effect, every flat earth video comparing flat versus globe, all of that still exists in the consciousness of being co-opted by the system. So it basically doesn't exist anymore. Like they just used you to humanize the system. If you're making YouTube videos, they used you to humanize their version of what you should be perceiving the reality as. And that and because you did it and they didn't do it, you made it more real for them. So now all they have to do, since it has more control over the consciousness of the masses, it just has to humanize itself, or appear to humanize itself, by teaming up with human type individuals. This is what the Flat Earth Conference does. The Flat Earth Conference says, hey guys, look at us. It's a whole bunch of us. We're out here. We're making videos. We're telling truth. We got a lot of people that are believing us and that are on our team. And they don't need to believe us because we have the truth. And then the mainstream media is out there saying, go ahead, little fucking slow ass kids. Go on out there and have your little fucking convention. Go, you little fucking simple minded ass motherfuckers. Go show your little pictures and portraits and your little models and stuff. That's so cute. Look at those guys. That's how they're gonna play y'all. And then boom, when they get ready, they're gonna be like, these are the real models. This is the real flat earth model. Ha ha ha. These little assholes out here on YouTube don't know what they're talking about. We have the technology. Dun, 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 dun. And now, since they're talking about what the so-called humans are talking about, now you think they're human. And since you was asking for unity, now you got what you asked for. Unity around what? Around another control grid. Because you was too simple to go any further than what they was already planning for your ass. That's what happens when you play checkers against people who's playing chess. So they got you at the body, they got you at the mind, they got you at the soul with religions, mainstream religions, and all this other stuff. You got Islam out there, you got them putting ISIS out there. Not Islam putting ISIS out there, I'm saying the system putting ISIS out there to put all this instability in frequencies in the cosmos or whatever it is in the consciousness of the people, so that, and this is another part, like the debate. So in the psychological and physical reality of fighting flat versus globe, you have the spiritual debate of Christianity versus science. So, and now how have they put themselves in the authority again? Through evolution. They get these little Christian people who are studying the Bible, and they're all about white Christian beliefs in that whole, that's the evolutionary peak of spiritual realities. So when science beats spiritual peaks, that's when that system becomes godly. So they become godly on the soul, they become godly on the mind, and they become godly on the physical reality, because the people have given it that authority. Hopefully the video is still running. The people have given it that authority. And even with all the information that we found, we still, as a whole, this is what I said earlier in this video, we still as a whole haven't approached the authority yet. We haven't approached the authority of intelligence from the evolutionary deceptions. We haven't approached any of that shit. So until these are good videos to check out too. I was looking to make a garbanzo burger. The nuts not cheese thing is just pretty interesting. Grow your own vegetables, store-bought vegetables, all this stuff. Watch those videos. Good. How one plant can give you, free food forever, all this stuff. Tight. What was that saying? Oh, another reason why people get butthurt when we talk about racism and all this other stuff. If you get butthurt because somebody talking about racism, you got some fucking psychological problems going on. Because if you cannot empathize, or at least sympathize, because you can't empathize a lot of the times, if you can't at least sympathize with the realization that race being used against my people, based upon like destroying ancestors. Not that long ago. You hear that word ancestor, you think a long time. No, ancestor, my little brother is an ancestor now. He's not with us anymore here in this physical realm. Many other realms he's still here. But in one realm, we move energies. So in this realm, When we have people, we have ancestors, we have stories. And you need to really ask yourself how fucked up you are if you feel threatened by somebody else talking about their basic fucking stories of existence. That's a real problem that you have. And it anchors in what I was saying before about the authority of intellect and all that other stuff. Since the system doesn't acknowledge our story and in fact acts like it doesn't exist, the people think that it's okay for them to do the same thing. Why? Because those people still have their roots rooted in that destructive, fucked up ass system. That's a proof of why they come at channels like me and other shit, other stories that are connected like that. That's another proof. So when I say stuff like, and I don't even like using the term, but I watched a video and like I shared that video about an African man on a community post talking about the history, basically validating the claims of many people, but in particular Dane Calloway. He starts talking about basically what I've been saying on this channel for the last few years now, is that we've already been here. There's a whole storyline and entire history that we don't know about in the Americas that's directly related to original peoples, and that whole storyline, that Pan-African story, that needs to be addressed. That needs to be addressed. Why is everything about Africa? Why aren't we not talking about the dark peoples of the Americas, or the stories of the Americas? Why are the stories of the Americas a threat to Africa? That sounds like another kind of a cracker backwards type of psychological program. And I use that word because I'm going to explain that word right now as the same kind of definition that the African man in that story explained that definition, because I really like it and I want to give him the whole credits for that. And I've heard it in different ways before, but this one in particular. He uses the term Kracka-Ass-Kracka. He says that he has no problem using that, and I have no problem using that term now, because now I've adjusted what that word is and understand what that word is from a deeper level. Thanks to him. You can look at that video for yourself. It's in the community post. I'll link it in this description here because it's part of this story too. So what he says, very basic, very generally, is, because you have to look at what he says to see what it is. When he says cracker or whatever, and other people, like particularly here in the States, say, the white man and this and that, all this stuff. I'm not going into those generalizations as easily as a lot of the Pan-Africans or the Black conscious community goes into those generalizations, because it's fucking lazy. It's lazy, and it's not really going to the depths of like our true potential. Kracka, as he explained it, is the consciousness of cracking the organic evolution process. Crack the individuals who have been broken so much for so long, whether that be psychologically, physically, or even spiritually, or whatever people are affected with. They have cracked in some way. And they defend the system that is cracked. So they defend it consciously or subconsciously. Like I was saying, people who cannot empathize with you, they're not going to understand why you still talk about your ancestors, because they cannot understand that a law was created to destroy your people based upon race and so many other deeper programs. So since those people are a part of that system, they can't understand. So they're going to create a wall, like something that stops you from going any further, because if you go further, you're going to leave them behind. And right now, they can't move any forward because the system in which they are vested in is not moving any forward anymore. It's maxed out. It can't go any further. So the people who are still holding on to the values, beliefs, and the whole connections of that system, they are also holding themselves back from moving forward. And this is why the flat Earth is maxing out at the physical perspectives. This is why the Mandela effect is maxing out at just simulation theory and transhumanism and staring at your aura. And I use her, Cynthia Sue Larson, because she's one of the like old school original Mandela effect peoples. And I wanted you to see where she was coming from. This was 6 years ago now. So she's just been steadily talking about Mandela effect since then, and now there's been people who come in after that are doing the same thing, saying the same shit, having the same kind of checker game approach to this shit. So when I talk about and using generalities like white people, and I'm talking about white people in reference to the cracker mentality of white people that are so far gone into the mind control consciousness of this reality that they have cracked. They have subconsciously and consciously cracked, and they can't see it. And that is the norm of society, which is why when you talk about your ancestors and the origins of the true history, the cracked consciousness, the cracked individuals will take offense to that. They will be offended that you are not talking about what they think you should be talking about in reference to like mending the cracks. They want you to mend the cracks of the broken consciousness. No. We are saying that synthetic ass, broken ass consciousness never should existed in the first place, and we're going to snuff it out right now. We're going to take every opportunity to point this bullshit ass approach to this reality, put it on blast, and make sure people know that this is not at all connected to any kind of deeper layers of who and what we are, or what we're doing here. Nothing. It's all make-believe. And this is why you have simulation theory and Mandela affected people that call themselves now. They got to create all these communities and teams and all this other shit because they're not comfortable on their own, because they don't know what it is to be on their own. They're still playing this human game. Is that human? Oh, I'm human. Oh, I'm a human. What the fuck does that mean? We're human. We are here. All just working around. Just walk. We're going to the human game. We're all one. It's all about unity and aliens and all that other cool stuff and going to Disneyland. Human, human, human. And then they want to talk about the spirit, but they don't know shit about it. Other than crystals, aura, colors, sacred geometry, t-shirts, and channeling messages. That's as far that's it. Doesn't that look like a goodie basket full of like a lunchbox called spiritualism? That's what that is. So that's how we're being locked down. I thought this video was going to be shorter. Hopefully it's under an hour still, but that's pretty much what I wanted to share. I've said this in many different ways before, but I had to get this off of my chest because I think it was because this video popped up as a recommended thing on my channel. I hadn't seen her face in a while. I hadn't seen it, and it was just fucking ridiculous because nothing's changed since then. Nothing's changed since I first started researching the Mandela effect and found her. What's happened since the beginning of the Mandela effect, like almost 4 years ago now? It's just you've just had more Mandela effects, according to them. And when even in the beginning, only like a few were really kind of like, oh, that's something to really pay attention to. But then they turned it into fucking Disneyland. 3 years later, you started with like two that were questionable and like, or like five that were questionable and like three that were just like, holy shit, maybe even more than that. They were just like, man, this is fucking something to be paying attention to. Then you got 3 or 4 years more of that, multiply that times 1,000. Then you got like 1,000 of the, or 100. They got 100 of, you know, y'all are reaching now. And like 80 other ones, or shit, probably less than that, like 30 other ones that are just like, yeah, or that are, excuse me, that are really dialed in and that are on point. But the point is, over time, what happens? Your counter argument is now also more powerful. And so you think you're becoming more powerful because you went from 10 to 30 positive, like believable sort of Mandela effect videos. But over time, you're also, your counter storylines also multiplied times, 10 or 20, and nothing really changed. Same thing with flat earth. We discovered it in the new type of the rediscovering of, a not heliocentric whatever. And then 4 years goes by and what? You just get more flat earth videos, more flat earth debate videos. But has it actually evolved? One could argue that it has evolved in so many ways, but I'm talking about, just from the facade of it. Has the facade of it evolved? Has Mark and Patricia changed at all? Has Globebusters and Jeranism at all changed? No. It's the same shit. Same approach. Same thing. And like I said before, people who are, that's their niche. That's what they're designed to do. By all means, that's their thing. Like I said, the difference between white people and crackers. This is what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the cracked consciousness. So-called white people are going to do whatever it is they're going to do. Whether they're trying to protect the system or they're trying to help out in bringing the system to justice. Those are your only two options. The other options are illusions. So what's happening is people, in particular, white people in particular, are scared because largely our side, our stories aren't locked down. We don't know what the fuck we're talking about yet. We still got Pan-Africans talking about this and the black conscious community talking about that. And you got, indigenous and aboriginals talking about this. And then you got so-called white people still trying to protect their investment. A lot of them, some of them too. So there's a lot of different things that are involved in these worlds that we don't really talk about. And now that these years have passed, and I'm just going to keep turning up the heat. This is just going to keep going on and on and on because I'm not really seeing as much support as I hear every now and again. I see the support in the comment section from the people who support this channel and all that other stuff. But when it boils down to like really what I've shared a lot, like what I'm really about on this channel, most of the YouTube channels on here are just kind of just, they have their own, their own focus. So I'm not like comparing or saying anything. At least I'm not trying to do that. Well, I'm just trying to share an example of another part of the reason why I'm kind of pulling away or going to be pulling away from YouTube. And I say this all the time, but I'm reaching now, like I'm chugging along towards 1,000 videos now. There's over 900 videos on here now, and I feel really comfortable about it. But the thing is that the velocity of shift and change and information, I know every little bit counts, but there's an overall macro adjustment that takes time that from my observations of seeing that over the last 4 years, there's things that need to be changed or acknowledged that are going to take a certain amount of time. If it takes a certain amount of time for an individual to do that, it's going to take way more time for a lot of people to do that. The other side of that is once a lot of people start doing a lot of change, then it makes it easier for the individuals to change too. So that's kind of like the exponential growth that happens after enough individuals get to that point to where, it hits that critical mass. But even in that critical mass storyline, it still has a certain velocity, or lack of velocity, I should say. And this bullshit approach that you're looking at right now with this whole, like, they're talking about, the entire reality. If you're talking about transhumanism and the Mandela effect and simulation theory in particular, you're talking about, and even auras, you're talking about the baseline of this reality. And then you have these simple consciousness minded people who are just turning this shit into Disneyland, into my McDonald's toys. It's ridiculous. And I'll be honest, it's a bit frustrating when I have expectations on it. But that's the thing. When I'm around it, you're going to have like subconscious, at least, what's it called? Expectations on it. But when you pull yourself away from it and let it be, that's when you don't have any real judgments or expectations on it. And that's where I'm moving towards now, because there's enough there's enough information out there that people can jump off of and know where I'm coming from. But really, right now, this is about community building this year and next year and from here on out. That's where I'm coming from. Community in a sense of real community, not this flat earth community and online community bullshit. I'm talking about you have a community around you, a 10-mile radius. Get those people around you, start growing some fucking celery and some carrots and some beets and shit, and get a few other people growing some garlic and some ginger and some green onions, and eventually you'll have a whole fucking supermarket that will make this entire system obsolete. That's the shit that we could be using this networking capabilities for. But the ego of the macro consciousness of these so-called humans is only about what the system is telling them they should be about. Be about what the velocity of the system tells you should do. Move at their pace. Move at YouTube's pace. Don't do anything else. Focus on what they tell you to focus on. So right now, what I wanted to focus on with this video is to separate the cracked mentality from the uncracked mentality. This is more accurate. Not cracked from uncracked. Cracked from uncracked, and the cracked that has been resealed, that has healed itself. You have cracked, and then you have uncracked people. Because this is how it goes. Because you have to crack yourself out of that system. And this is what's happening in the control and conspiracy theory community. People think they got it together in the cracked system. So they're unconsciously cracked, thinking they got it together. When you get into conspiracy worlds, or you start talking about the mainstream media knowing how fucked up it is and how it's a mind control program, you're starting to crack. And then you start to make compensations for that cracked reality, which is like the New Age community, the New Age prescription drugs, and so on and so forth. And then you start becoming in a new world of thinking you're not cracked. So this is another good example. People who are in the New Age community are a bunch of cracked people thinking they're not cracked, because the system is still cracked. So, and they're still cracked because they're still heavily vested in that system. So this is the next layer of uncracked people. The next layer of uncracked people are the people who have been cracked, whether they have done it themselves or have been forcefully done it by the system, or the system acting through family, or the system acting through society, or so on and so forth. They have cracked. And then they have mended and healed themselves through realizing all of the cracked versions of consciousness that are out there to implode you, and how all that shit exists outside of you and doesn't really allow you, or you, when you're in there, you don't allow yourself to realize the depths of the spaces you need to go to address these situations. So what's happening is people remain cracked, and they put crack filler over their cracks and then polish it up and paint it and say they're uncracked or they're not cracked when they're cracked. There's some Kracka-Ass-Krackas out there. People out there, and this is a Kracka-Ass-Kracka society with some cracked ass consciousness that's been making laws, Kracka-Ass laws that said what? You can lynch a person because they looked at somebody else. You can burn and blow up buildings, churches, and little boys and little girls. You can feed slave babies to alligators. That is a cracked ass spirit. It has not been acknowledged or addressed. And you motherfuckers are the descendants of the ancestors who were thinking that that shit is normal. You expect us to listen to you fucking crack mentality and spirit ass motherfuckers as if you got all the answers of what we should do next? Sit your simple asses down and shut the fuck up for one moment. You have been the recipients of a sick, diseased, cracked mentality. A Kracka-Ass-Kracka mentality for generations now. And you are basically saying, get over it. When you say, we're all one. It's all about humanity. You're being divisive. We should be talking about unity. How fucking sick are you to assume that all of the people who are around me should just act like this shit doesn't matter anymore because it happened yesterday? How convenient for you to be able to say that. When that shit still exists physically, psychologically, and spiritually in our genetic makeup and every kind of layer of spiritual, physical, and psychological genetics. It doesn't affect you. You were not in that world ancestrally in like we were. So please shut the fuck up when you are coming at anybody else and talking about you're divisive. Don't you know the original slaves were the Slavs, the Slavic people? How many times, that'd be really funny if somebody went through the 900 videos on this channel and found every single fucked up Slav comment and divisive word comment and all. I mean, you would have hundreds and hundreds of pages of shit. That's how far it goes. So that's what I have for this video. Hopefully it's still running. And this particular screenshot thing just cuts it all off sometimes, but oh well. That's pretty much what I wanted to share with this video. Get some more clarity on things, especially for the people, not really especially because I really don't give a shit about what they think as far as the people who are just like, you're divisive. They're just the loudest ones. I just want to share information really on many different levels just to get them to just shut the fuck up a lot of the times. So I'll say a certain amount of things just to be like, all right, well, this is how simple you are. Here's an example of why you're cracked. You have a Kracka-Ass-Kracka consciousness. So, yeah, that has nothing to do with, I don't want to say it has nothing to do because there's many ways that, you know, so-called white people benefit and are, you know, ingrained in that reality. But to make the point, which is using terms, even when I use terms like white people in my previous videos, I'm really using the term cracker. Like when you look back there and I use terms like in a fast sort of flow and I say white people, that's not to generalize. I'm not generalizing. I'm talking about, and I've said this in previous videos, instead of using the cracker as the mentality, I've said like the colonial consciousness, which is the same thing. It's the cracked consciousness. Whereas people in other circles are comfortable with using that term. I've never used that term, but it makes more sense now using it more than actually colonial consciousness. It makes more sense because it's more impactful. You can feel it more now. Whereas like colonial is just kind of like historic or something like that. People are just like, I don't want to get into that. That's in the past. No. Kracka-Ass-Krackas are still out here maintaining all kinds of mentalities in society that are an example, an extension of the KKK, colonialism, white supremacy, eugenics, genocide, so on and so forth. That's a cracked ass spirit, a cracked ass soul, a Kracka-Ass-Kracka. And this has nothing to do with so-called white people, whatever you want to call yourselves. It has nothing to do with you. I'm not generalizing that. Like I said, like this ain't got nothing to do with that. And if you are going there, that's more of an example of your own perspective is your own shit you got to work on than me. Because if you were to talk to me personally about it, you'd know why. You'd learn quickly why it ain't got shit. That's not what it is. And like I said, it really boils down to obviously, this is micro and macro storylines. This ain't got shit to do with, like, just like I ain't talking about any individual when I'm mentioning a lot of this stuff. Not talking about, like the whole people. That's just too simple. It's like a shallow approach. I'm not simple enough to generalize like that. And people who have been following this channel know that. A lot of them now, they didn't know that before. But over time, some of them did come back and, apologize and say, I'm sorry that I, commented a certain way or reacted a certain way. I didn't know that this is what you were talking about. And I really appreciate that too. But that's what's been happening over the years. So thank you to the people who have done that. Because it really does make a difference. Because the majority of the time, it's just what? You see all these... it's the loudest peoples that are out there are the ones that are needing to learn more. They need, the loudest ones are the teachers and the students who need to learn more. Like, it becomes a muscle at a certain time, and it can work against you. So a lot of the people who need to work a lot harder are the ones who are being subjected to a lot of this bullshit on a deep level. So since this is another side to look at it, so-called white people who are benefiting from this system, they also have the most work to do. They have the most to overcome. In one way. Like, we have a lot to overcome in our own way, which is beyond in many ways, in comparison to other people's shit. Depending on what perspective you want to come from. But the point is not to take away from other people's work that needs to be done in just basic acknowledgement. This is not to give a pass to anybody or anything. This is just to say that, yes, definitely. And it's another perspective to realize too. Your descendants, your ancestors, they all benefited from those rules and regulations. And it is extremely fucked up that we have these networking capabilities now and this potential. Not to take on like what your ancestors did and say like it's your fault and you have to apologize and all this other stuff. No. Don't become the victim that quick. No, I'm saying if I were in your shoes, I would at least take it as a responsibility to share a lot of the information, if not all, and not a majority of the information that has added up to why the system is the way it is, why it treats people the way it has, how you have benefited from that system, and how you are now continually trying to maintain the pillars of that system, whether consciously or subconsciously, to maintain your own comfort in that broken and sick empire. I'll leave it on there. This video probably stopped a while ago, but thank you again for the support. Thank you again to all the people who are sharing and liking the videos and leaving comments. I do read the comments. I don't get back to them all the time, but I do read them. And I try to. I'm trying to. The comment section is kind of like another version of social media. I'm off Facebook. I'm off Instagram, and I'm moving away from it as much as possible. So don't take it as like a slight or anything. I'm working on a lot of things, and as much work and energy as I put into a lot of this work, I have to kind of distance myself from some parts of it too. Especially when I wake up in the morning, I'm like, let me go see what YouTube is saying after I uploaded that pretty good video the other day. And it's like, kill yourself. Why were you born? Like, what? How stupid? Like, it's just the most fucked up shit out there. So it's just funny now. It used to be kind of like more impactful, but now it's just like so regular. In many different ways. It's not as extreme as it used to be, but it's just disgusting. And it's something I'd rather not even have in my circle of shit. I don't really need it to produce this kind of work. It helps to communicate. And this is kind of why... Oh, and I'm glad I said this. There's a community post section on YouTube that I'm utilizing as an interactive sort of a extra information sharing thing. So if you're subscribed to this channel, check out the community post. You can't do it on, I can't do it on my tablet. Maybe on other people's tablets you can. Can't do it on, maybe you can access it somewhere on the desktop, but I know for sure you can access the community post thing on your phones. So if you use the YouTube app on your smartphone and you go to the community section on somebody's YouTube channel, you can see what they've posted. And you can comment and like, and I don't know if you can repost or whatever, share or whatever. But yeah, that's a section on there that I'm using now. I can only upload to that community post from my phone. So that's what I'm thinking. It might be only for the phones. And eventually it'll come around to the tablets. That's just another one of those like evolution things, like the iPhone 10 will make you think like they're doing something. Same thing with this YouTube Premium shit. It used to be YouTube Red, and it was like they didn't want to make it look like they were charging you for something that should be, was free anyway, so they called it YouTube Red. But it was really just YouTube Premium. And then Premium should just be regular. They shouldn't be putting those ads on there anyway. But they're just like you're putting out little things to suck you in. So yeah. How was I even talking about YouTube? Oh, the community thing. So they evolve the expansion of it that evolves your idea of evolution and so on and so forth. That's another way it works. But yeah, so that's the thing to check out if you're interested. If I see something pretty interesting on YouTube or wherever, or if I make like I used to make Instagram little memes or whatever, I'll upload it there. But I haven't been doing that too much, as much. So check that out. It's another good way to get information and share information and talk to people. Yeah, and thanks again. Thanks for joining me. And until next time, from all my relations, peace, love, and harmony.